The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998. Live from the 540 ESPN studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is the Pro Wrestling Report with David Hero, Frank Cosentino, Linda Kay, and your host, Damian Nelson.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live on Monday night, October 17, 2011. Damian Nelson's here sitting alongside the lovely social media diva Linda Kay and David Octavius the Tiberius, the alleged backyard Hall of Famer hero. And there is a lot to talk about tonight. Hate such a strong word. There's a lot to talk about.
Four-letter word.
Like Cody?
Yeah, how about that?
There's a lot to talk about tonight, including last night's TNA Bound For Glory pay-per-view, where the discussion has not stopped, and also tonight's WWE RAW, this Sunday's Vengeance, hot news, information on Sweet and Sexy, Fan of the Week, and more. The Pro Wrestling Report is totally interactive. We're looking for your phone calls. The number, 414-276-ESPN, or 1-800-990-ESPN. That's 1-800-990-3776. We'll get to your phone calls when we go into the phone zone in just a few minutes. But we're also interactive on Facebook. And, Linda, tonight's theme of themes.
Tonight's theme of themes is TNA Originals.
TNA Originals.
Yes, sir.
I guess that's fitting with Bound for Glory last night. The biggest pay-per-view from TNA Wrestling.
Without a shadow of a doubt, it's humongous.
Impact Wrestling.
You can
TNA Impact Wrestling.
You can give us your theme suggestions on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report.
I can't wait to hear what you picked tonight, Linda.
Yeah, I can't wait either.
WWE RAW just going off the air, and the main event for tonight was the team of Alberto Del Rio, the WWE champion, teaming up with Michael Cole to go up against John Cena and good old JR, Jim Ross. That was the main event tonight on the Go Home Raw, leading into this Sunday's Vengeance on pay-per-view.
Amazing how you have such great wrestling history and tradition, and that's the main event that the people of Mexico City got. Michael Cole and Jim Ross.
First time WWE RAW emanating from Mexico City. And one thing that was clear was most of the stuff that happened tonight wasn't clear to the audience in Mexico City.
Right. I mean, why wouldn't they use the Titantron like for subtitles, or have something like that? I mean, you got to wonder about half of the audience, 60% of the audience wasn't too sure what was going on.
That's just like doing a Raw here in, let's say, Sioux City, Iowa, and speaking in Spanish for the entire night. That's the equivalent. That's the equivalent of what happened tonight. But anyways, that didn't take away from the show, because the show did have a lot of wrestling tonight, and a lot of people
because they can't have all those promos. They got to be selective.
A lot of people like to see that wrestling on Raw, but this final matchup was less about wrestling and more about setting up the WWE Raw main event for this Sunday's Vengeance, which is now a last man standing match. Alberto Del Rio versus John Cena. I was a little surprised by the lack of crowd involvement surrounding all things Alberto Del Rio tonight.
Absolutely.
And this is the only reason he's champion is for tonight.
Stop it. You know what? And you said that last week, and I said you were wrong, and tonight proves that fact.
How?
Because they didn't even build the show around him. It should have been like the big homecoming.
Excuses.
It should have been the big celebration for ADR and RRE.
He shouldn't need that.
Yes, he should. When Bret Hart goes to Canada, it was Canada Appreciation Day. Okay? Why not have the same thing for ADR?
So they got to create all these little gimmicks.
Why not?
For people to react to Alberto Del Rio.
Because you know what?
He can't do it on his own merit like Cody Rhodes in the Miz.
He was cheered as a babyface.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, my gosh. When John Cena hit him to end the show, the crowd booed. They booed Cena for hitting him.
They didn't boo as much as they booed when Jack Swagger attempted to sing the national anthem. My question during that segment was, where was Fit Finlay?
Oh, really?
What?
you're going to go there?
It's a valid question.
No, it's not. He got fired for that reason right there.
Oh.
Yeah, because of your guy, The Miz, trying to get him some more heat.
Dolph Ziggler has an issue with Titus O'Neil?
Dolph Ziggler, I think, is the best thing going on Raw right now besides ADR.
Well, you know why? Because he's endorsed. He's my latest endorsement.
He's also a super
Dolph
friend.
Ziggler.
He'll get me some points this weekend.
Other things happening on Raw tonight. We talk about Swagger. We talk about Ziggler. Well, the matchup was Zack Ryder versus Jack Swagger. And I hesitate there because I'm still a little surprised that Zack Ryder got the 1-2-3 clean pin over your boy there, David Hero, Jack Swagger.
He's doing business. He's trying to make Zack Ryder a bigger star going into this weekend's pay-per-view.
And there will be a matchup this weekend at Vengeance between Zack Ryder and the United States champion, Dolph Ziggler. I know announced tonight was a tag team matchup, but when it's all said and done, it's going to be a United States championship matchup, Dolph Ziggler versus Zack Ryder. Dolph Ziggler versus Zack Ryder. Woo, 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 Linda knows it. He is going to be on a pay-per-view and a championship matchup. David Hero, you've been burying Zack Ryder for a very long time.
I do not bury Zack Ryder. I just think he's being pushed way too hard, way too fast, way too strong.
He's what the people want, Dave.
Really? You think you think the people want Zack Ryder?
Yes.
And then of course we got Damian Nelson saying the people want Cody Rhodes.
Oh, they do.
Wow. So the history of wrestling going forward, the future of wrestling is Cody Rhodes and Zack Ryder.
And The Miz. And Dolph Ziggler.
It's going to be brutal.
And Crimson.
Okay. Hey, speaking of guys you've
moving
endorsed,
right along.
How about
the
that
Punk
wellness
versus The Miz tonight with Triple H in Punk's corner?
Don't be hiding. We got to address it.
How am I hiding? I'm right here. I'm moving on. That's not
Heath
at this
Slater.
That's not yet to happen in the discussion points for tonight's show.
Okay.
I will have a statement later on that everyone will want to hear.
I can't wait to hear that
earlier.
I'm sure you did. Did you get a Frosty?
The Punk versus The Miz. Triple H was in CM Punk's corner, and John Laurinaitis would tell us that we have a bit of an immigration problem.
Yeah. How did he get into the country without a problem?
Tijuana.
Oh, border town.
It's easy. It's just painted on the ground, you know.
Yeah.
The line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyways, Triple H ejected from the building and the matchup, and we would then see Punk get the win over The Miz. And the new friendship between CM Punk and Triple H, while maybe not so easy to explain,
awkward,
is interesting, especially because we haven't heard from Punk. We heard from him last week, obviously, but we didn't hear from him tonight. And some are saying that could be one of the things missing on WWE Raw. But, David Hero, your point, very valid about why there wasn't so much talking tonight.
There's no way Punk could have cut a promo in Mexico City.
Mexico City.
Because of all of his little, smart comments and whatnot, you can't translate all that stuff. English is a very difficult language to speak. Because so many words sound familiar. So many words sound the same but mean something completely different. You got to be careful.
CM Punk versus The Miz tonight.
You're completely ignoring my facts. I'm giving you right now.
I gave you a head nod and a
Yes, thank you, Linda.
Punk versus The Miz. Pay-per-view quality matchup, some say, and it was free on Raw tonight.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had to give him something. I mean, Triple H isn't wrestling, and you have Cena and Del Rio up in the main event.
Here's one question about Triple H that needs to be answered because a lot of people are still asking. Now, last week Vince McMahon came out and relieved him of his duties as the Raw general manager.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still COO. But even when he was made COO, I don't know if it was ever said that he was actually the Raw general manager. So your question, David Hero, when Triple H came down the ramp tonight was, why is he wearing a suit?
Yeah, why is he wearing a suit?
Apparently he's still the COO, but not the general manager of Raw because John Laurinaitis is the interim general manager of Raw, replacing Triple H, who replaced the Mac computer.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make sure everybody's following along.
Okay.
So still COO, but not in charge of Raw, but will be obviously stepping back in the ring sometime very soon.
I don't know.
It's very confusing. What if TNA did this? We'll talk about them later. More on Raw tonight, including John Morrison getting pinned yet again right in the middle of the ring, this time at the hands of the World Heavyweight Champion Mark Henry, who teamed up with Christian and Cody Rhodes to take on the team of Randy Orton, John Morrison, and Sheamus. A long matchup, a good matchup, a six-man tag matchup with stories to tell abound in that match. It was obviously Christian and Sheamus having a bit of a program right now. Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton going to be going into Vengeance this Sunday, wrestling a matchup as well. And then Mark Henry in there, I guess, for flavor, along with John Morrison, who's going nowhere fast in WWE. And I think once that story comes out as to whatever is going on with John Morrison, I think we're all going to want to hear in great detail what the heck happened to Jomo. And I still wonder.
I want to know.
I wonder if Melina has something to do with it, because Maria Kanellis actually said just last Monday night that basically Melina is the reason that John Morrison is no longer being pushed. As a matter of fact, being de-pushed right now in WWE. The fans still definitely like John Morrison. John Morrison is still a very unique talent. John Morrison is still very talented. Not sure how much longer he has in WWE, depending on who you ask. Either he's waiting and counting the minutes until he can get out, or he's playing the role that he is expected to and dealing with the cards that are dealt to him and moving on. But a good six-man tag team matchup between those stars, mostly from the SmackDown side of things, tonight on Raw. John Laurinaitis, the interim Raw general manager, teases that Rey Mysterio is making his return tonight in Mexico City, Mexico. Well, of course, that was not the case, as John Laurinaitis then went on to inform us that Mysterio would be making his return to San Diego, which was classic and very well done and smart by WWE. John Laurinaitis saying he made a mistake in firing Jim Ross, good old JR, and then announces that main event that we would see tonight after bringing Jim Ross back to WWE. Linda, we also saw the return of the Spanish announce table tonight.
Yeah.
That was, I'm surprised nobody went through it. And one big question on Twitter tonight that was being asked by many people is, since they were in Mexico, does that mean somebody would have gone through the English announce table tonight?
I would have liked to have seen that. I mean, I was surprised. I would have liked to have seen, maybe in the end, if Cena would have thrown Del Rio through that table, I mean, I think they would have gotten as much cheers as boos just because people wanted to see it.
The crowd was firmly behind John Cena tonight, and that raised the ire of a lot of people out in the Twitterverse. Mm-hmm. And people still say they don't understand John Cena's popularity, and they're sick of John Cena, Super Cena, blah, 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 blah. But one thing you can't deny is that John Cena is a huge star, and his following is more massive than his naysayers, if you will, or the people who don't like him.
Well, because there's more kids in the audience.
Sherman's?
Yeah, there's a bunch of little Jimmies and whatnot around. I don't appreciate you killing my mic either like that.
Why is it everybody else with you?
What do you mean?
I didn't touch your microphone.
See? That's what I mean. You were cupping it.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Hero presents Jim Ross from 1996.
Brutal.
WWE Raw tonight, overall a show that I think fell a bit short in doing what it needed to do, which was give me a reason to buy Vengeance, the third pay-per-view in 6 weeks, I think, from WWE, coming off the heels of Bound for Glory last night. I'm not sure if WWE convinced me that $40, $50, whatever it might be, is needing to come out of my wallet this Sunday. Obviously, it still will because I have broadcast journalistic duties, but they dropped the ball tonight, I think. And they were in a weird spot having to be in Mexico City tonight. Not a knock on Mexico City, but they have to change things when they go somewhere where the audience is that drastically different.
Let me just say this. I will not be spending $40 to watch this pay-per-view on Sunday.
Are you going to stream it?
I will be going to a blast area and watch it there. I'd rather spend $40 on food and beverage to a local facility than to order this pay-per-view.
Jameson is expensive.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
So it was, there were strange, I heard voices in my head. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
But here tonight, WWE Raw, again, falling a bit short in what it needed to do, which was sell us on this Sunday's Vengeance pay-per-view. We're going to talk about this Sunday's Vengeance pay-per-view and so much more. But first, let's go to your phone calls. And again, the number, 414-276-3776 or 1-800-990-ESPN, 1-800-990-3776. Let's first go out to California. And JR, you're live. Hello, JR. All right, JR in California. Let's move on to Michigan and take Eric on line 2. Eric, you're live.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
I am tremendous.
All right, I have a public apology to make to you guys. I said a couple weeks ago that the last segment of Raw it got me stuck to the TV, and
last week.
Because last week's show, I would have rather watched Sex in the City for 8 hours straight.
Well, who wouldn't?
I wouldn't.
It was bad.
Oh, the HBO show. Forget it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, not happening. I would seriously rather have watched anything else. It was horrible. And this week's show did nothing but make itself look mediocre, and it was horrible.
Did the fact that it wasn't live make a difference to you?
I think the fact that it was live, but yet the crowd reaction. If you turn on the television to channels where you can watch Lucha Libre, the crowd did not sound like it was actually that crowd, and you could tell that the cheers were all looping for John Cena or certain other superstars. It was just looping, Mason Ryan especially. I'm sorry, but nobody cares about Mason Ryan.
David Hero does.
Well,
he's a super friend. You haven't heard?
I care about everybody. That's the problem.
And one more thing. I think in your guys' draft that you guys do, where we're not hearing much about it anymore, you guys should actually have points deducted for every time you have a wellness policy violation.
Yeah, David Hero's roster would be in worse shape right now if that were the case.
Really?
I mean, he does have some TNA guys once again.
Well, they don't test. Probably fine.
And I did again dominate David Hero last night in the draft. We'll have an update later on in this program about that. I'm sorry?
Forget it.
Yeah. Eric in Michigan, thank you so much for calling and joining us here on the program. Let's continue on the phone lines and continue in Michigan. Let's go to line 1. David, you're waiting, and you're live.
Hey, how's everyone doing tonight?
I am tremendous.
That's good. I actually kind of enjoyed Raw tonight, but I wanted to say something about last night.
Well, one question. You enjoyed Raw tonight, probably the first hour more than the second hour, because the first hour is dominated by two of the biggest stars in WWE, Cody Rhodes and The Miz.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
What do you got for me, amigo?
Last night was, are we going to hear the news later from you, Hero?
Absolutely. I'm not going to give it away in the first 30 minutes.
What? That's unusual of you.
Oh,
David Hero last night on the TNA Bound For Glory post show, which is available on our website, pwrshow.com, spoke of hot news tonight regarding that very unique finish to Bound For Glory last night. We'll definitely be getting to that on the other side of a break we have coming up in a moment. But, David, I think you may have joined us last night on the post show as well. And you have any further comments about Bound For Glory?
I think people are forgetting a lot about Daniels and Styles, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because they also, even though people are saying that we've seen those two over and over, which we kind of have over the years, but I think those two put on a great match, too, when people are talking about the Rude, got screwed or whatever. I think a lot of people are overlooking the entire pay-per-view and giving TNA a fail for last night.
Well,
if you don't count the main event, it was a good pay-per-view.
And we did ask
Not so good, but
we did ask that question on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. We're going to have updated results tonight because I think Ohio and Florida have now reported in, and we have a very substantially different result. I don't think the Supreme Court will need to give this election to anyone, but tonight we'll have the final results of that poll on Facebook, rating overall Bound For Glory. And like you're saying, David, many of those initial ratings coming in may have been a direct reflection on the results of that TNA World Championship matchup where Kurt Angle retained his TNA World Heavyweight Championship.
I mean, where would we be right now if Rude would have won? People would be calling that, man, TNA has really turned the corner since Victory Road. They're on the right path right now.
Oh, they would be.
Yeah, everyone's talking high on TNA right now. Be buzzing about TNA.
Yep. Well, that bee got smacked, and there is absolutely no buzz actually remaining.
There's still buzz about the pay-per-view last night.
There's not. You can tell yourself that, David Hero, but there's not.
Okay.
Negative.
I know buzz. There's no buzz. David from Michigan, thank you so much for calling in. And we're going to take a time out. When we come back, we're going to talk about TNA Bound for Glory last night and some interesting questions that we want you, the audience, to answer about some similar scenarios that we may have seen in the past as to what happened last night at Bound for Glory. We've also got hot news, details on Sweet and Sexy, which goes on sale this Friday. Fan of the Week, more of your calls, Vengeance this Sunday night. And I've got a statement on a recent WWE suspension due to a wellness policy violation. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
540 ESPN.
Awesome.
Doesn't that fit in well here?
Wrong company, wrong song, wrong.
It still fits.
Wait, yeah. Miz is one of the chicks on the show.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com. Speaking of Miz and such, look at Linda's mic flag on our microphone. How'd that happen?
Oh, my. I didn't even notice that.
You got your mic flag is all mizzed up.
Upside down. Upside out.
Tonight, the theme of themes are TNA Originals. Sound like a little beautiful people action there, Linda. Who gave us that, Jim?
That was Brandon Alexander. Thank you very much for your TNA Original suggestion. And again, everyone else, Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. Let us know what you want to hear, and perhaps you may hear it.
You've been busy on that Facebook page, Linda. I saw some videos this weekend of Brother Love, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Gorilla Monsoon.
That was some great stuff, by the way.
Wasn't it, though?
Watching the old primetime stuff with Bobby and...
here's a question, and I know this may not be able to be actually answered, but it's been a long time since the Brain and Gorilla were in the booth together. It's been a long time since WWE's primetime was on USA Network before Raw came on. Well, we're talking almost 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure anybody in the wrestling business will ever be as good or better than Bobby the Brain Heenan. I mean, there's just so much stuff that you forgot you heard, but you remember when you heard it, and it's just like, where did he get that so fast?
Well, the best thing about Bobby is that he was also an in-ring performer besides just a manager and a mouthpiece.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew what to do. He got it. And look who he was around. He was around Nick Bockwinkel, a guy that, if you asked him what time it was, he'd tell you how to make a watch. That's the kind of guy he was.
He'd tell you how to make a Swiss watch.
Absolutely.
All that available on our Facebook page right now. Well, David Hero, last night was TNA's Bound for Glory on pay-per-view. And some very, very interesting things coming out of that pay-per-view, including Kurt Angle retaining his TNA World Heavyweight Championship. This was a shocker.
You're starting off with that?
Okay, fine. Well, that's a highlight.
That's going to
start with the highlights when you go down.
That right there is going to incite all the calls, and we're not going to talk about the good stuff that happened, like Ken Anderson beating Bully Ray.
Oh, of course.
Come on. Or Austin Aries, a double, putting on a clinic in the opener. Tracy Brooks returning, helping out Velvet Sky. Yeah, go through your notes.
There were a lot of good things that happened on Bound for Glory.
I would say, things.
And this is arguable because a lot of people have argued it. Overall being the key word there, it was a solid pay-per-view from TNA Impact Wrestling.
Start to finish. Well, almost to finish.
And the way it went down, since you want to hear things presented differently, David Hero.
Yeah.
Remember, you're just an opinionist. I'm the broadcast journalist.
That's fine. Then journalism.
Facebook was the place. Pre-show was the name of the game. And the tag team titles defended on the pre-show from TNA. It was Mexican America versus Inc. Mexican America wins that matchup and retains those tag titles. Good idea, bad idea to have it on Facebook, David Hero, after seeing it?
I think, I didn't watch it on Facebook, but it was a great idea. Why not give away some more free streams?
The opening matchup was
Speechless, huh? Got you, didn't it?
A-double rather, not to be confused with Arn Anderson, A-double Austin Aries. As you saying, David Hero, putting on a clinic against Brian Kendrick in the opening contest.
It was a great match. It was a great way to start the show.
You know, some people have said that that match should not have started the show. That match should have been deeper in the card given its strength. But I think that point might be lost in the fact that TNA has a tradition of delivering a pretty solid X Division matchup in the opening match of many of their pay-per-views, most specifically Bound for Glory. I think it set the tone for the night very well, and I don't think it depleted the audience as much as some things that would happen later would.
Listen, the opening match is what is supposed to get the crowd excited. So
it's good to be in an opening match?
Absolutely.
I don't remember that.
Well, that's where you're going to wind up on Blizzard. Well, no, we don't get the crowd excited. We don't want to put them to sleep. But you want to get the opening match is the match that sets the tone for the rest of the night. And that's what Austin Aries did. That's what Brian Kendrick did. They put on a great match. It looked believable. Sometimes they were a little bit too fast, but overall, I thought that was probably the best match of the night.
The next match, in some people's minds, was equally as good. Not this person's mind. RVD versus Jerry Lynn.
Oh, that wasn't good. I want to know what Shane McMahon thinks that Rob Van Dam used his finisher last night.
Rob Van Dam used that first.
No way. The Shane-inator did that first.
No. You're a Mark. Shane didn't do that first.
I have a cousin, Mark.
Did he watch last night?
Absolutely, on the stream.
Here's the thing about that matchup. It was fun, I guess, but it was a bit of a mess all at the same time.
It was a mess.
Have we seen the last of this? Should we have seen the last of this RVD Jerry Lynn business?
I think they tried too hard. I think that was the big problem, is that they tried to recapture magic that's been 10 years old.
We're going to recapture our magic when we come back as we join on 540 ESPN. This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com. Welcome to those of you listening to us after Monday Night Football on 540 ESPN in southeastern Wisconsin. Damian Nelson here with David Octavius of Tiberius, the alleged backyard Hall of Famer, hero, and the lovely social media diva, Linda Kay. Linda, I just got a tweet came through here, and you sent it to me, and I don't know what it means either. Something about a boat.
What?
Somebody's saying something about Linda and a boat. I don't know what all that means. Do you go boating, Linda?
In the summertime. Or maybe in Miami.
Oh, of course.
I did ask
Linda,
you
I want to see what
fish.
kind of boat you use on Lake Michigan in December.
Well, a motorboat.
Obviously. No kidding.
A speedboat, like with two motors and such.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're talking about TNA's Bound for Glory from just last night on pay-per-view, and the match we were talking about was RVD versus Jerry Lynn. David Hero, you say that they tried too hard. Well, Jerry Lynn definitely hasn't lost a step, in my opinion. RVD, in my opinion, I mean...
let's face it. First of all, Jerry Lynn doesn't get Rob Van Dam money, so Jerry Lynn has to work harder than Rob Van Dam to try to get Rob Van Dam money.
Rob Van Dam, very popular out there in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said many a time, recently on this program, I don't understand that popularity, especially now. But last night, Rob Van Dam is, he may as well have had a shield on his chest because he dang near gets concussed.
Watch it.
With that powerbomb Jerry Lynn gave him on the ladder that shifted a little bit, causing Rob Van Dam to hit the back of his head on the steel guardrail, and comes in, gives the Van Daminator, the Van Terminator, whatever you want to call it, to Jerry Lynn. 1, 2, 3 gets the win, and hopefully this particular feud is all over. Was it Bound for Glory worthy, David Hero?
I think, you know what, of all the matches, I think this is the one that delivered the least.
They were in Philadelphia.
Right. And the fans loved them because of their history. But I think if they're in any other town besides Philadelphia, they get booed out of the building.
Next matchup was a three-way, Crimson versus Samoa Joe versus Matt Morgan. And Joe just about killed Crimson at one point in the matchup. He did that dive outside the ring, to Crimson on the floor. It was difficult for me to follow this match at times, David Hero, because I was getting Crimson and Matt Morgan confused with each other.
You got the new skyscrapers confused, huh?
I did, just a little bit.
I'm sure. Yeah, well, when you
Crimson
keep pressing A-B on your box, it's going to look a little familiar. But
I don't do that.
Okay.
That other guy does.
Now, you know what?
Crimson
Obviously,
wins that matchup.
Crimson was going to go over because he's the guy that had the momentum.
And he's endorsed.
And yet you endorsed him, which doesn't bode well for his medical future. But why not let Samoa Joe win? Jumpstart that guy's career.
He needed jump-started. The battery's dead.
He needed a victory last night.
He's a new alternator, too.
He needs a lot of stuff right now.
The match, not so great. It was a bit short. The fans not at all behind Crimson. And a lot of things that happened at Bound for Glory last night, a lot of the fan feedback, as far as their cheers, their boos, whatever else, was, I think, directly reflective of what a lot of the hardcore wrestling audience is saying. And that Crimson, I guess there was a faint Goldberg chant during that matchup directed at Crimson last night, because that comparison has been made, including Crimson and Goldberg getting into a little bit of a fight on Twitter. More on Twitter fights later on here tonight. But the match, I think it did what it needed to do. I do agree that it could have been and should have been Samoa Joe's night, but that would not be the case.
When you think of wrestling towns, you think New York, Madison Square Garden, Hammerstein Ballroom. You think of Philadelphia. You think of Milwaukee, St. Louis, Chicago, Dallas, Texas. Some of the bigger wrestling towns. And right now, wrestling fans can't connect with Crimson because he looks more like an MMA fighter than a pro wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to believe that Crimson was going to get booed in Philadelphia because Samoa Joe is their kind of fighter, not Crimson. They got to be careful where they try to push these guys when they go on the road, because what can happen is they can get the reverse effect. They can get what they weren't hoping to get.
They made sure they didn't get what they weren't hoping to get in the next matchup, which was Bully Ray versus Anderson. How about that promo Bully Ray cut before coming out to Philadelphia?
Do that. He had to. That would be like Ken Anderson, being a heel in Green Bay,
Wisconsin.
He'd have to go out there and rip the Packers and everything else about Green Bay.
But it was what Bully Ray said that made it that much more special and believable, because it made total sense.
Oh, yeah, and he meant it.
I'm from New York. All I did was use you people in Philadelphia. It was perfect. It was well executed, and they bought it hook, line, and sinker. They bought it.
Well, they had no choice but to buy it, because they're not going to sit there and just take it. I mean, it's Philadelphia. These are the same people that cheered Michael Vick.
Who?
Exactly.
Next contest.
Whoa, wait a minute. You're just going to blow it over like
Anderson
it didn't even happen?
wins, and I thought it was a hard-fought matchup.
I
thought both men looked great.
It may have been Ken's best match since he's been in TNA.
I said this on the post-show last night, but Bully Ray is one of the top talents in the wrestling business right now, in my opinion. He can talk. He can talk the right way when he needs to talk,
as opposed to the left way.
And he can and he can perform in that ring. And he showed us again last night how good he is and how good people in the ring with him are as well.
Well, you know what? He's from the old school mentality. He's been around. He knows how to tell a story. He was one half of one of the better tag teams in all of wrestling.
Absolutely. For a very long time. The Knockouts Championship changing hands last night at Bound for Glory. Velvet Sky defeats the champion Winter, along with Madison Rain and Mickie James. A four-way match. Karen Jarrett, the referee, and Karen Jarrett also shining with a microphone in her hand last night.
You know what? I don't think anyone does better mic work than Karen Jarrett right now in TNA. I think she's fantastic, tremendous. She knows how to incite the crowd. She gets the true emotion out of the people in attendance. And you know what? God bless her for doing a good job. But, I mean, hey, Velvet Sky, fantastic match. got the assist from Winter, who blew the kabuki spray into Karen Jarrett's face, and which then allows Tracy Brooks to come on down and make the 3 count, which, by the way, is always good to see Tracy Brooks on Impact Wrestling. But you know what? I thought it was a very good knockouts match. I mean, you finally had 4 women in the ring that know how to wrestle. I mean, think about it. I mean, not one of those 4 were ever a swimsuit model, Diva Search contestant, any of that.
Well, Tracy Brooks, while she wasn't in the matchup, she's been in pictures.
Well, yeah, but that's not where she came from.
Right.
That's where she eventually went to.
Next matchup was an I Quit match, and I really hate the concept of I Quit matchups, but it was AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels. Christopher Daniels says I quit as a result of a screwdriver, and that's not a wrestling move, at least in this case. It was not a drink either. It was a flathead screwdriver, a standard, if you will.
You know what? That match was, the finish I thought was well booked. I thought that, what good does it for if AJ makes Daniels say I quit because he hurt him or whatnot, then the feud is over with. But the way they did it, where Daniels quit because he was the cowardly heel, now prolongs that feud if the fans like it or not. That's obviously the direction they're going to. Where now, the door's still open for some more matches, for some more gimmick matches, something else completely different that AJ and Daniels can do together.
Next 2 matches, very significant, and there's some very interesting discussion points I'd like to take us on as we talk about these matchups. The first one was one of the 2 main events, and it was 2 legends, Sting versus Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan back in a TNA ring, and last night, contrary to what I thought would happen, Hulk Hogan not only delivered, but over-delivered, and I would say proved to all the naysayers that not only does he still got it, I don't mean wrestling ability, that he still has it, which means his ability to perform in front of an audience, but he proved basically what he's been saying all along about his star power.
Hulk Hogan is the reason most of those people were in Philadelphia last night. He's the guy that sold the most tickets, sold the most merchandise.
He's given the attendance figures. He didn't do much, but
he's the megastar. Okay, stop. What was the attendance figure?
About 2,500 sold.
Okay. Now, when they're in Orlando, how big is that building?
Holds about 1,000.
Okay, and they can't even fill it up for free.
They can.
So the fact of the matter is that Hulk Hogan, the greatest box office
I can't believe you're about to make
in
this
the history of wrestling, sold at least 2,500 tickets last night.
Oh yeah, he did it all by himself.
Absolutely.
Okay, given your points of the last few weeks about how Hogan and Sting is the smartest thing to do because they're going to put people in those seats, how about all the empty seats?
Well, there's always empty seats at a live event.
Half the building.
Oh, really? So you're going to go off those pictures that were photoshopped and adjusted? I can't believe you.
All night long last night, people are tweeting us pictures of the empty seats in the arena. I could have cared less because it happens in WWE as well.
You know what?
It's hard.
Here is where we'll find out if they were a draw or not by the number of pay-per-views that were sold.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we'll probably never know the actual number.
No, you watch. This one will come out because this involved Hogan and Sting.
But the good part about that, Hogan bringing back Hulkamania, it seems, at the end of the matchup, nobody knew or really, I don't think, thought was going to happen. So if that was the best part about it, then they didn't sell a dang pay-per-view because people thought they would see that. People were cringing.
If they saw Be the Booker, they would have known that was the where they were heading with it.
People were cringe, but you're not the Booker.
But still, it
in
makes
real life,
sense.
People were cringing as to what would happen in the middle of that ring last night with those 2 men in it. Sting deserves a lot of credit. Hogan deserves a lot of credit.
You know, it's no secret that we get pretty cynical on this show.
We?
Yeah. I'm not just going to blame myself. And you know what? I'm sitting there and I'm watching Hogan in the ring, and I'm thinking, my God, what this guy is risking right now.
Paralysis.
He could very well. I mean, he has so much metal in his back. Something could have snapped, crackled, or popped, and it could have been all bad. I mean, we could have seen, Hulk Hogan stretch it out last night.
Hogan managing expectations going into that matchup. He appeared on several media outlets last week and at an event last weekend actually said he wasn't going to be taking no bumps in that matchup. Well, he did, and it made them that much more special. Because you walked in, again, the expectations going in, Hogan's going to phone it in. He can barely walk. He can't deliver They delivered last night. Hell, they delivered. It seemed, from what I heard in my very ears, and I am partially deaf in one ear, it seemed as if the loudest crowd reaction I've ever heard in the 8-9-year history of TNA happened when Hulk Hogan ripped off that shirt last night.
Hulk Hogan, he owned that audience last night. That crowd was there for
I've never
him.
seen a TNA audience in any way, shape, or form react to anything they've done in their history than they did last night to Hulk Hogan.
Here's, for me, what was the telling tale. Because, obviously we watch the Facebook and the Twitter accounts. And
Linda does.
We look to see what people are saying, thinking, and opinionating.
Linda does.
And when Hogan did his deal with Sting, and he tore the shirt off and did his best Darth Vader to save young Luke. Who? When Sting came to Hogan and said, "Will you help me?" Like when
the Schwartz is with you.
Like when Luke went to Vader when he was getting killed by the Emperor and said, "Will you help me?"
Ridiculous speed.
That's fine. But hey, I'm watching the feed on Twitter. Nobody was saying, "Oh, this sucks. This is dumb."
The world popped.
Everyone's like, "Wow, I'm a kid again." I remember that was awesome.
Goosebumps.
Exactly.
Goosebumps.
So once again, Hulk Hogan knows what he's doing.
And he did so last night at Bound for Glory. Did Hogan last night, I speculated on Primetime last week that he had done so earlier in the week with all of his appearances, including on Howard Stern and SportsCenter and the like. Did Hulk Hogan prove his worth last night? Did he justify his contract extension that was just signed with Impact Wrestling?
Yes. And why? Who else got a bigger crowd reaction?
But Hogan, last night was a perfect example of how a veteran, a legend, should be used. There was meaning, there was purpose to the matchup. There was a reason for Hogan to be in that ring. Unlike a Ric Flair, who many times he's hopped in the ring lately, there's been no reason. That is what made it so special last night. Going forward, I can't find another reason for Hogan to get in the ring, and I don't think he can top what he did last night in the ring again, because as important as Hogan was, Sting was equally important. And two questions I want to ask about that whole thing with Sting and Hogan. Did it feel at all familiar to you, David Hero?
Hogan and Rock?
WrestleMania 18?
Absolutely.
It was
identical.
Last year at Bound for Glory. You remember what happened? 10-10-10?
Yes.
It was the whole NWO creation thing
yeah. Mm-hmm.
in Panama City Beach or Florida, whatever, somewhere in Florida.
Right, Daytona Beach.
Yep. So the last two Bound for Glories have been somewhat of a tribute to
Hogan's
things
biggest
that
achievements.
Exactly.
He's reliving his glory.
Exactly.
Just minus the pay-per-view buys.
And the other audience.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I want the audience to ponder, and I want to hear your reactions to this as well. If you take what happened last night at Bound for Glory with what we've talked about so far, keep in mind we haven't talked about the main event in depth yet. If you take what happened and you pick it up out of Philadelphia and the 3,000 or so people in attendance there and the ring apron that didn't say Bound for Glory and the stage that wasn't special and, everyone telling us it's the biggest event of the year. You pick that up and transplant it into a WWE setting.
Mm-hmm.
What would the reaction had been? Better, worse, or about the same? How about now? This is the Pro Wrestling Report. We are live on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com. We want to hear your answers to that question right now on Twitter and our Facebook page. That's Twitter at PWR Show and Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. Does that work?
No. Can I just say that last night, Karen Jarrett's remix of her husband's theme song was tremendous?
Yeah, it was. Was that new?
A little sassy. Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report. We're live Monday night, October 17th, Here on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com, Damian Nelson, along with the lovely social media diva Linda Kay, and David the Octavius Tiberius, the thinks he's in a Hall of Fame hero.
The 8-1 booker for Bound for Glory.
Why does it only matter when you and the company book it the same way? Yet, when you get them wrong,
Well, first of all,
they're not predictions. When you get them right, they're predictions.
I just happen to know that TNA Impact Wrestling watches Be the Booker, and maybe they like some of our thoughts and ideas, and they implemented them in their pay-per-view.
Well, from the time Be the Booker aired to the pay-per-view, some things
must have changed.
We're talking about TNA Bound for Glory. And the question we posed to you before the timeout was, if you pick up Bound for Glory and put it in a WWE setting, would the reactions to the pay-per-view be different? And Linda, my apologies, I don't think we heard who submitted that theme as part of tonight's Theme of Themes, TNA Originals.
Right. That was
David Hero cut you off and interrupted you.
Thanks, Dave.
He does that quite a bit.
We got a few
I told him to stop.
Jeff Jarrett, thank you to Sean Wagner, Michael Burdett, and Sean Ross.
Oh, a lot of people like the King of the Mountain.
Am I wrong?
That was the song.
All right.
Jeff Jarrett last night taking issue with Jeff Hardy.
With Jeffrey Nero Hardy.
Was that his mugshot on his T-shirt?
I don't know. I mean, I couldn't really tell.
I wouldn't be surprised.
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. But you know what? Here's my problem with that. Is if they were truly frustrated and upset and disappointed in Jeff Hardy, why give him a pay-per-view payday?
Mm-hmm.
Why bring him out there? Why give him a new T-shirt? Why not have him start at the bottom of the roster?
And climb it rung by rung by rung?
Absolutely. Let him start with the Pope and build his way back up.
The Pope wasn't on Bound for Glory. He was
That's what I
watching
mean.
The Color
That's
Purple.
why I said on the bottom of the roster. I mean, the guys that weren't on the pay-per-view obviously are at the bottom of the roster right now.
Before we talk about that question that was posed and take some calls from Adam, John, and Don.
Who?
It could be like a morning show.
It sounds like
Adam, Don, and John in the morning.
Like Neil and Bob.
The main event. Bobby Roode wins the Bound for Glory series.
Wait. Hold on a second. Gunning back to the whole Jeff Hardy, Jeff Jarrett thing, didn't you find it weird that Jeff Jarrett was escorted out of his own ring if he's the founder? Why is security pulling him anywhere?
He wouldn't stop.
It's his ring,
But
his
he wouldn't stop.
building,
But
his
he wouldn't
pay-per-view.
Stop. But he wouldn't stop. And Dixie's in charge
When
now.
have you ever... No, that did not happen. That happened after that pull-apart. That was before Hogan.
But Hogan's in charge.
When was the last time you saw Vince McMahon escorted out of his own building by security?
One of the best Vince McMahon moments, you talk about being escorted out of the building, it was Survivor Series, the night after Survivor Series 2001, I believe, when Stephanie and Shane came out because they had lost and Team WWE had won the night before. And Vince says, "Security, get this woman out of my ring."
Right, but that wasn't Vince getting out of that
You're
ring.
right. No, you're right.
It's the
You're
details. No, I'm not. This is why
you can't.
TNA flusters.
I think the
everybody.
main event is why they fluster everybody.
Stop. Let's rewind.
Collaborate?
And listen, when you have Direct Auto Insurance as the sponsor for the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, why isn't there a ring apron? Direct Auto Insurance, Bound for Glory. Now, obviously, only one side of the arena could see it.
On the long sides, it said Direct Auto Insurance. It did.
It did.
It did.
But did one say Bound for Glory?
The turnbuckles did.
They did not say Bound for Glory.
The turnbuckles, the top and the bottom turnbuckles said Bound for Glory. The middle one said Direct Auto Insurance.
I saw a screwdriver in one of them. I didn't see no words
Dude,
on it.
that one had Bound for Glory staring you dead in the eye.
Really?
Right in the pupils. Were you dilated? Your pupils?
Sure. I think so.
The point you're making, though, a valid one. What was special about last night's pay-per-view aesthetically? Visually?
Nothing.
Biggest pay-per-view of the year.
And
they
you
kept
know
telling
what?
me that.
Some of the TNA talent in the back were wondering the same thing. They're like, what's going on here?
A lot of these points we made last night on the post show.
And where were the signs in the audience? There was one sign in the entire pay-per-view, and it was a plant. Not like a fern, but like a plant.
The commentators who weren't in tuxedos kept telling us.
That's expected.
Kept telling us it was the biggest pay-per-view of the year.
Right.
What made it big aside from them telling us? WrestleMania. huge stadium. TNA obviously can't do that. Huge stage, huge set, huge visual cues that it's WrestleMania. And obviously WrestleMania is an institution in and of itself. Bound for Glory
all by itself.
Bound for Glory is nowhere near. Bound for Glory is another pay-per-view from TNA.
The reason why
the way they presented
the
it
reason
is just
why
another
Bound
pay-per-view.
for Glory is so over is because wrestling fans like to say BFG. That's what it comes down to.
BFG?
Yeah. Kind of like what the Terry Funk.
Kurt Angle versus Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode wins the Bound for Glory series. This is a several-month journey.
Mm-hmm.
He gets into that arena last night at Bound for Glory, and in about 15, 20 minutes' time, gets pinned while Kurt Angle
nowhere
was using the ropes and his arm was under the ropes, and a unique drop down on the 3 from the referee, Brian Hebner. This match ends in controversy, but I'm not sure if that controversy was intended. Bobby Roode does not, after everything that's happened, telling us that it should, Bobby Roode does not win the TNA World Championship from a very, very good wrestler in Kurt Angle.
You know what?
The fans then at that moment forgot about all the greatness they saw in the match before with the return of Hulkamania, and now everyone is laser focused on this latest botch, if you will, by TNA Wrestling.
Bromigo, I'm sitting there, I'm watching it. I'm like, okay, 1, 2, he's going to grab the ropes, he's going to kick out. 3. Oh, okay, well, now Dixie has her company
Somebody's
back.
on their way down.
Someone's going to save the day because there's still 12 minutes left.
Right. 8,
and nobody comes down, and all you see is Bobby Roode with his head in his hands.
Defeated.
And I'm like, you mean to tell me with Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, Kurt Angle, Jeff Jarrett, and Vince Russo, 5 guys that I would like to say are pretty smart in the wrestling business, that was the best finish they could come up with?
Don't forget Brother Love.
Yeah, exactly. And Brother Love. It's like,
do you think it was intended? Do you think it was supposed to happen as it played out on TV? Do you think that was the plan?
Well, what else was supposed to happen?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
I can tell you what was supposed to happen. Bobby Roode was supposed to leave TNA Bound for Glory as the TNA Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion.
So you got this guy, Bobby Roode, who wins this Bound for Glory series that we have shoved down our throats since the spring.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to Bound for Glory and he loses.
Mm-hmm.
Kills the series. The series has absolutely no value whatsoever.
Now you know, listen, so that's what's going to happen the first time someone goes to cash in the Money in the Bank and lose.
That's the thing. You win the Royal Rumble, you win Money in the Bank, you're winning a championship to protect the integrity of Money in the Bank and the Royal Rumble. If it's ever happened, it's rare that somebody wins either of those two institutions and goes on and does not fulfill their destiny by winning a championship. That's what's... They can't do another Bound for Glory series. They do a Bound for Glory series next year, I won't care.
The Bound for
Because
Glory
I will know
series was designed for Bobby Roode. It was designed for him to go to win to become the TNA World Heavyweight Champion.
But didn't quite go
you know
that
what?
way.
Listen, shocking. He was supposed to be. He was supposed to win, and you know what happened? Someone got cold feet at the last second, and they changed it. Bobby Roode was supposed to leave Philadelphia, your TNA World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion.
For a long time, he was.
Yeah, and you know what? I like Bobby Roode. I think he is super talented.
Here it comes.
But you know what? Can you blame Hulk Hogan for waiting?
Yes.
You can.
I can.
A guy that has made more money than God in the wrestling business, who has a
Doesn't mean
clue.
he's good at running a company. Doesn't mean he's good at those decisions.
Well, you know what? I'm sure something creative will come out of this week at the TNA Impact tapings.
I understand these tapings are must-see.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, the next 2 weeks of Impact are must-see.
Because
they got to reset.
What I'm gathering, it's going to be there's infeuding, okay, between the
Brothers
originals.
and sisters?
Yeah, there's so much unrest right now in that TNA locker room that things are going to be shaken up. And you know what? I don't know if we as fans are going to like what's going to shake out, or if we're going to be, wow, that's tremendous. But it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks, if not months, in TNA Wrestling. Because now let's not forget, Bruce Pritchard is taking over head of creative. Lots of interesting things are going to shake out, especially in the next 48 to 72 hours.
As interesting as Bound for Glory. Did TNA drop the ball? Did they drop the proverbial ball?
You know what they could have done?
At the end of Bound for Glory.
You know what they could have done? They could have done what they did with Christian, and let Bobby Roode play the part of Christian, where he finally wins the championship, just to drop it back to somebody else or Kurt Angle on Impact on Thursday night.
They made this, and you got to give TNA credit where credit's due. They made this Bobby Roode's night before the night ever came to happen. They made this. They made all the fans want it as much as Roode wanted it. And then they didn't deliver.
Well, you know what? I don't think Angle and Roode delivered either. I think the match kind of sucked.
Wow.
It wasn't as good as it could have been. It was
a lot of crippler crossface.
It was two guys just doing tons of reversals on submissions instead of actually wrestling and putting on a story, on a clinic, on a match. They were more concerned about making each other tap.
I think it's a foregone conclusion that they did have to cost them audibles because they were left with 20 minutes.
But they could do a lot in 20 minutes.
They can do a lot in 20 minutes. You're absolutely right. But perhaps the match was to go a certain way, and given the time that was left, it did not. Because there's no doubt they were pinched for time. You notice that JB didn't do the in-ring introductions, which always happens for TNA Championship matchups.
I think he forgot.
No, he did them, but as they were coming to the ring.
Oh, really?
I think you forgot that you heard them.
Well, I was just so enamored by how good Christy Hemme looked and how great she was doing, last night.
You tuned out JB?
Absolutely. I mean, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to, tune out JB, or are you going to tune out Christy Hemme?
I'm going to tune in Christy Hemme.
Absolutely.
Oh, Hemme, oh, Hemme. The question that's out there, you take everything that happened at Bound for Glory, including this matchup with Angle and Roode, and you put it in a WWE setting. You put the WWE shine on it, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the result?
So you have Jim Ross telling a story, explaining the matches. You have the
pyro.
A huge
setting.
You have the graphics. You have the production value. It's a great pay-per-view.
Even if WWE did the same exact results and finishes that TNA did last night, it would be a great pay-per-view.
Yes.
People
last
would
night
not...
was a great pay-per-view. I liked it. I didn't care for how they finished the pay-per-view. I understand why they did it because, you know what, maybe Bobby Roode, as great of a wrestler, okay, you know what, stop. When was the last time Vince McMahon rolled the dice and put the World Heavyweight Championship on a guy that wasn't proven?
Jack Swagger.
Come on.
Jack Swagger. He wasn't proven. Sheamus wasn't proven. He wasn't proven.
Sheamus was
He's
a
been
monster.
there for a cup of coffee. He's been there for a cup of coffee. Bobby Roode's been there for 13 years. He's been wrestling. He's been in TNA since day one. Talk about being ready,
first
being
of all,
built.
Swagger
Bobby
cashed in
Roode
a Money in the Bank.
was as ready as AJ Styles was. Bobby Roode was as ready as Samoa Joe was. Bobby Roode was ready to be TNA World Champion last night.
When Bobby Roode cut a promo, did you believe him?
Yes.
What did he say?
Stuff.
See, it was not memorable.
Okay, and you remember everything Sheamus and Jack Swagger said.
Of course, fella. That's all. Sheamus didn't have to talk. He was a monster heel that put John Cena through a table. Okay? Swagger cashed in a Money in the Bank.
Yes, he did.
Okay. He cheated to win. So it doesn't make a difference that way. And he lost it shortly after.
Because he wasn't ready.
Vince does not put the belt on someone that's not ready for it.
But
isn't it the company's responsibility to get them ready, even if that's getting them ready with the championship?
Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't get them ready. There's a lot of guys that should be in a better spot than where they are. Look at John Morrison. Mm-hmm. He should be in a better spot. He's not there. Listen, no knock on Bobby Roode. I think he should have left the TNA Wrestling Impact Heavyweight Champion on Sunday night. I really do. But he didn't, and there's reasons for it. At the end of the day, Creative, Dixie, Hogan, and Bischoff agreed he wasn't ready. Because nobody fought for him to have him leave as the champion.
Hulk Hogan and AJ Styles get into a little bit of a war on Twitter. You bring that point up.
Mm-hmm.
Hogan said on a radio show last week, Bobby Roode isn't ready. AJ Styles goes to Twitter and says, and I quote, if you will, frustration setting in when your own guys bury the company that you have worked so hard for, brother.
No, ... brother. But now, okay, you got to wonder, is Hogan being his heel character on Twitter?
Hogan did respond to AJ Styles with the following, and I quote, just waiting for somebody to figure it out and do Today Show, Fox and Friends, Leno, radio, TV, etc., instead of the same 5-star matches over and over. In mainstream and worldwide international media, on my blank basis, brothers, Hulk Hogan.
How can you argue that? How can you argue it? I mean, I understand AJ Styles because, we've talked with AJ. We know how he gets frustrated. He loves TNA wrestling, and he was the face of the company. Right now, he's not the number 5 guy in the company.
It's so much deeper than what we saw last night.
Yeah. You get frisked over comments like that.
So you understand the frustration on some people's end.
I agree. Hey, you know what? If I'm AJ Styles and Hulk Hogan, the face of the company that I work for, is running down one of my best friends, the guy that I believe in, before the match even happens, and then takes away his credibility before the match even happens, damn right I'm going to be hot about it.
But isn't it Hogan's responsibility to make an AJ Styles that guy? Isn't it Hogan's responsibility, if he's making these decisions, to have, over the last 2 years almost, make these guys better? Because that's what they haven't done.
But
TNA wanted 5-star matches over and over and over again from AJ Styles and everybody else there. So they did what they were there for. And then the tide shifts. The winds change.
But you know what?
And nobody helps them. Nobody brings them up. Nobody elevates them, thus leading to frustration.
If I am TNA Impact Wrestling, okay, and I have Bobby Roode become the new TNA Impact Wrestling Heavyweight Champion at Bound for Glory, what I do is I say the first promo that Bobby Roode were to cut if Hogan was still the heel character that he was, you know what, Hogan? You said that I wasn't ready. I wasn't good enough. They put Hogan's Twitter account up on the big screen. They show it by the quote. They get over the Twitter account and say, "Look, I was ready. You know what, Hogan? You were wrong." And that elevates Bobby Roode by proving Hulk Hogan wrong. And they didn't do that. So then you got to wonder, well, was Hogan being honest? Was he shooting on Bobby Roode, knowing he was going to nix the whole idea of letting Bobby Roode become the TNA Impact Wrestling Heavyweight Champion? Who knows?
But doesn't Hogan have a responsibility as a guy being paid by TNA Impact Wrestling to not go on a nationally broadcast satellite radio show and say what he said?
Okay, if I'm Hulk Hogan,
brother,
and I am promoting TNA Impact Wrestling,
Bound for Glory,
and then all of a sudden I'm talking about my TNA Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, Bobby Roode, and the satellite radio host goes, "Who's Bobby Roode?"
He didn't.
But that could very well happen.
You're playing a game of what if now.
Life is about what if. Come on, Damien, you know that's how it works. Listen, when I run GLCW, okay, and I do a Blizzard Brawl or whatnot, and I'm taking my shows, to different places to sell an event. You know what? They say, well, who's your world champ? Who's your champion? Well, in the past, I've had the Iron Sheik. I've had King Kong Bundy. I've had Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. And I've had Al Snow. As talented as Adam Pearce is, the average person, I've never heard of Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. Oh, but I know the Iron Sheik. Oh, I know King Kong Bundy. Oh, yeah, Al Snow, the guy with the head. That's how you build your company, by using recognizable faces. And as talented as Bobby Roode is, he's not as recognizable as Kurt Angle.
You're exactly right. And that works on a Sports Center. That works on a Today Show. But when you're on a wrestling radio program, you have no reason to bury the guy who's in the main event of your pay-per-view. That's what he did.
But it also...
And he can answer the question if that were asked, who's your champion? Bobby Roode, who is an amazing athlete, who's been in this business for 13 years. You can align it with an endorsement of that talent and get the audience who may not be familiar to listen and understand who he is.
What happened when you made it seem like I buried the Pope a year and a half ago?
Made it seem like you buried the Pope?
What happened?
When I simply restated your comment.
Was talking about the Pope, weren't they?
Uh-huh.
Okay? Now what's going on? Everyone's talking about Bobby Roode.
This is the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Stop stalking your ex and be our friend on Facebook and join the tremendous worldwide discussion. Facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report.
Camera action.
540 ESPN.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live Monday, October 17, 2011.
Damien, do you follow the Hulkster on Twitter?
At Hulk Hogan.
At Hulk Hogan. He just tweeted out, keep watching the show. I think you're going to love what's coming up, brother.
This show?
Well, obviously our show and their show.
Monty Brown, the alpha male, Linda Kay.
Power.
That's old school.
I like that. Thank you, Justin Pesci, for that recommendation. Good stuff.
Tonight's theme is the theme of themes, rather, TNA Originals. I want to remind everybody who's listening to us here on 540 ESPN in Milwaukee, tune in to the Pro Wrestling Report television, primetime TV, Saturday nights, 10 o'clock p.m., right after Ring of Honor Wrestling on My24 Milwaukee. Yes, indeed, the Pro Wrestling Report, primetime on My24 Milwaukee each and every Saturday night, 10 o'clock p.m. It's all that happened the prior week in wrestling in about 30 minutes.
Yeah. And then if you catch us online, it's 5 more minutes.
Approximately.
Yeah.
Online exclusive. You can still catch the show.
Did you ever
each and
find out
every week.
what was under the desk?
How are you, Linda?
I'm doing.
It was
tremendous.
Linda?
I said, how are you, Linda?
That's how rumors start.
Let's go to some phone calls. We've got some people who've been waiting on hold very patiently. We're talking about TNA Bound for Glory, and the discussion has been quite spirited thus far tonight. But we want to hear what you all have to say, most importantly. Let's first go to line 3, Don, out in New York City. You're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
What's up, guys? Question for you, Damien. Question for you, David. First off, David, you are a Hall of Famer. Do not allow Nelson to attach this alleged stigma next to your name, okay?
Oh, thank you, Bro Cephas. I appreciate that.
Yeah, his trophy was a spring from a mattress from the backyard.
That's semantics. This man is a Hall of Famer. He's a legend. And speaking of what this man does, Blizzard Brawl, Damien, why are you inciting Mr. Masters? Don't you know to let sleeping dogs lie? Just go into the match, be humble. Don't come out and say you're going to destroy this man in this match.
Yeah, he's
you
a dog.
honestly think that in your heart of hearts?
Yeah, he's a dog, all right. He's
first
a
of all,
dog
you said
that's going to run with his tail tucked between his legs when he sees me walk down that aisle at Blizzard Brawl December 3rd in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I am going to destroy Chris. Wait till you hear the lineup of trainers I have. Look, I got no worries. All right, and just so everybody knows, no, Heath Slater was not training me.
Okay. And David, I want you to put yourself in TNA's hands. Velvet Sky gets the belt finally. How far out do you take her with the belt? And do you see with Karen Jarrett having this relationship with Madison Rayne, do you see Madison being next in line to get a title shot?
You know, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Karen Jarrett comes out and strips Velvet Sky of the TNA Knockouts Championship on Impact this week.
She is going to confront her. That has been advertised. There will be a confrontation between the two on this week's Impact.
And why not take it off her and give it back to...
I'm sorry?
The belt.
Stripping, taking it off.
You are just too much tonight.
You've been listening to those commercials, haven't you?
I think so. But that's what I would do. You know, take the belt off of Velvet and let her win it again at the next pay-per-view. Let her keep chasing. You know, because, listen, she doesn't need it. She's over like $1 million, and what better way to get more of a crowd reaction, more of a babyface reaction for her than to, you know, take the belt off her and put it back on whoever, I guess. That's if I just knowing how Karen Jarrett could be, I think that would make the most sense.
All right, guys, tremendous show. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Don, from out of New York, for calling in. And let's go to our next caller, who is from Columbus, Ohio. Adam, you're live.
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Adam.
Well, you guys have been talking about Bound For Glory, so I guess I'll put my 2 cents in. Overall, I give the pay-per-view a low B, with it being great, obviously, right up there till the end. To answer your original question, Damien, if this was a WWE pay-per-view, things would have been the reaction would have been much better, I agree. But I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
In the weeks leading up to Bound For Glory, Hogan did his media tour, and in one of the interviews, he said that Bobby Roode wasn't ready, and then he went on to say that he thinks that James Storm should be someone who they should really be focusing on. My question for you guys is, what makes James Storm more ready than Bobby Roode?
Thank you very much, Adam, out in Columbus. Great question. And James Storm arguably is more relatable to a lot of fans out there because of his real life attitude.
I think James Storm sells. I think he's more.
Sorry about your damn luck.
No. He's more of a character. Okay, Bobby Roode is a wrestling machine,
as was Chris Benoit.
Right, but at the end of the day, how much merchandise did Chris Benoit sell?
It didn't matter to WWE. He was champion for about a minute.
Right, because the fans were strongly behind Benoit.
As they were Bobby
No,
Roode.
I get it. I completely get it. But okay, now with all that being said, when Eddie Guerrero was the champion, who did he lose the belt to? JBL, a strong character.
The wrestling god.
Yes. James Storm is a strong character. He may actually be a better fit than Bobby Roode.
Thank you for that call, Adam, out in Columbus. And, again, you can call us at number 276-ESPN or 800-990-ESPN.
Got a comment here from Michael Bellinger from our Facebook page saying, how can you say TNA does anything well? TNA will never become big if young talent gets treated like crap. Hogan only creates short-term buzz.
I don't know. I think the NWO lasted quite a long time. I think Hulkamania lasted quite a long time. Short-term, are you kidding me? The only short-term buzz he's had has been micro-championship wrestling. That's been it.
I will challenge that point with this. Vince Russo was so great when he was in WWE. Why? Because of the team around him. When he went to WCW, he helped put the company out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Bischoff, great in WCW. What's he really done since then?
Nothing.
The team around you.
Let me ask you this. Okay, I'll let you finish. Then I have a point for you.
Hogan has only created short-term buzz, yes. The same short-term buzz he created when he came in.
But look what he's given to work with.
Arguably, that company overall, and we talked about this on the TNA In-Depth series, overall, by all measurable metrics, has not done any better since he has been there. There's no return on the investment.
Right.
The investment that they just reinvested in. But one point I want to take from this comment from Michael on our Facebook page, and it's the first line. He says, how can you say TNA does anything well? Last night, during the pay-per-view, a tweet came out, and it got me thinking. I can't remember who sent it. It said, is this really any worse than anything WWE is doing right now? I think that's a valid question. I really do. Look at the main event on Raw tonight. Now, it wasn't their WrestleMania. I get that. But is it really any worse? How come, and I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways, how come, or as they say down south, why come TNA can't do anything right? In the fans' mind, in most of the fans' minds, TNA can never, will never, and arguably has never done anything right. Why is that so prevalent out there? Last night, everybody sent us pictures. Ooh, look at all the empty seats. Look at all the empty seats. You know what? Who cares? Did you like the pay-per-view? Did you like the product in the ring? Did you like what was delivered? And some will happily say no, especially because of the last match. But why is it that there is this rampant belief out there that TNA is just an epic failure?
Because they're an easy target. TNA is the easy target because they haven't made money yet. They haven't been successful yet. So, what, you going to pick on Vince McMahon, the billionaire, or are you going to pick on
the underdog?
Yeah, the underdog, absolutely. But going back to Bobby Roode and James Storm, who would you rather hang out with, Bobby Roode or James Storm? Who would you rather spend
since I'm working out for my match with Chris Masters, Bobby Roode.
You are so full of crap. You and Storm could be drinking your Jameson and,
I've given up alcohol, by the way, in my preparation for this matchup.
So you're a quitter? Okay.
No, I'm a suspender.
Okay, Linda, I can't ask Linda because she'll say woo, 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 or something like that.
Regarding?
Who would you rather hang out? Who would you rather go hang out with for an evening? Bobby Roode or James Storm?
Bobby Roode.
Okay, I'm asking the wrong person because she's going off of looks. Because she thinks Bobby Roode is sexy. I'm just saying, you got to go with who the fans can relate to. Look at you, giddy over there. You guys, it's funny.
Let's go back to the phones. John in Queens, New York, you're live.
How you guys doing? I want to give a shout out. The PWR show, Prime Time, looks awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you tuning in.
Hey, I wanted to ask about I didn't want to go on first off, the Hulk Hogan and all that Bobby Roode stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Roode should have won that. All jokes aside. But I wanted to talk about the Mil Mascaras going to the Hall of Fame. Are they doing that only because Del Rio and the Rey Mysterio DVD, he actually brought up Mil Mascaras?
Well, let's not forget, there's a pretty large Latino population in Miami.
Well, don't get it twisted. I'm Puerto Rican, so I understand that.
Well, I'm not twisting nothing. Take it easy now.
No. I'm just saying, but what you forgetting about the other guys like Santo, and then you got to figure about the other guys over in Japan about like Tiger Mask and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be like I'm hoping that like the masked wrestlers finally get that way of going, because when you got the Rey Mysterio and they're trying to do this Sin Cara thing now, and now they're busting it out with the two masks. I don't understand what's going on right now. It's what I'm trying to really say. Appreciate those wrestlers, and then you only have those few that can actually do that.
Well, John, one thing I think that needs to be pointed out, and thank you so much for the call, is the WWE Hall of Fame is a bit of a joke at times. It's all about...
You got Coco Beware in there ahead of King Kong Bundy.
Exactly. And until the likes of a Bruno Sammartino, who doesn't want to be in it, I know, and the likes of a
Macho Man
Randy Savage and an Ultimate Warrior, until those people can be in it, it's not a legitimate Hall of Fame. Sorry about that. Cauliflower Alley Club doesn't play those politics, and when they do their inductions in April out in Vegas, they're real, they're legit. Now, let me say this. I want to make sure this statement is clear.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a knock at all to those who are in the WWE Hall of Fame, because it is an honor to them to be inducted into that Hall of Fame. But the way the process works is very, very, now, again, this is wrestling, but it's very, very different from legitimate Hall of Fame.
You know the advantage of having all these guys wearing wrestling masks in the Hall of Fame in Miami? You know what it is?
What's that?
I mean, you could, who really will know who they are? You can put anybody under a hood and say, yeah, that's Mil Mascaras.
A mask.
Same thing.
Mil Mascaras.
Yeah. Look, La Parka come out in a skull hood, Who's going to know if it's him or not?
What about Juventud Guerrero?
He's hoodless.
Thank you for that call, John, out in Queens. Great question. And in case you hadn't heard, it was announced that Mil Mascaras will be inducted into the 2012
Who
class.
is the uncle of Alberto Del Rio. But you already knew that.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Beer! Money!
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN, ESPNMilwaukee.com. We're live Monday night, October 17, 2011. Damian Nelson, Linda Kay, and David Hero. Talking about TNA Bound For Glory last night, a lot more than we planned to tonight. Still got quite a few things to get to, including a couple phone calls. But Linda...
Wait. It's good to have TNA discussion and conversation.
We spent an hour and 5 minutes on it last night.
That's good.
Thank you to Brian Knowles, Jethro Tyler Anderson, Sorrell Battle, and Ryan Smith.
Jethro? It's a great name.
Thank you for your suggestion of beer money.
Which includes Bobby Roode and James Storm.
Absolutely.
Linda?
Yes, sir.
The question was pass or fail for Bound for Glory last night. Last night on the post show, it was a solid fail.
Pretty interesting, considering right now it's very close.
Very close?
In fact,
Neck and neck? Dead heat?
just
Fight
about.
to the finish?
Just about. All right, it's close, but just edging.
No cigar or cigar?
Will you let her answer the question?
I'm building.
You're distracting.
Close, but just edging with 55% of the vote. People are saying is a fail.
Really? Still?
Very close. It is almost 50-50, though.
Just goes to show they don't know what they're talking about.
Really?
Yep. It was a good pay-per-view.
Overall.
Overall, it was
in
a
that
good
poll.
pay-per-view. Overall, it was good. If it's overall, you just can't go by the last match. Overall, 8 out of the 9 matches were solid.
You know what was really solid is my domination over you again in the fantasy draft.
Sorry,
last night.
who's winning?
You're less than 100 points
At
ahead.
the end of the day, all
It's
that
a
matters is
statistical
who's
dead
winning.
heat. Statistical dead heat. It's not about winning or losing. People always remember number 2.
No, they don't.
I picked up 120 points to your 95 points last night. I want
to totally over
make sure everybody else who's participating in the public version of the fan draft that the points and scoring will be updated for the last few pay-per-view events on our website, pwrshow.com, later this week. We apologize for the delay in that, but we only had to fire 2 interns due to that failure.
You were too much.
Sweet and Sexy. Chavo? Sweet and Sexy goes on sale this Friday, and for those of you that don't know, it's your opportunity to go to WrestleMania in Miami and watch it from Sun Life Stadium in a suite with Damian Nelson and Linda Kay. That's worth the price of admission alone.
Wait a minute. I'm not invited this year?
Oh, you'll be there. I said your name, didn't I?
No, I don't think so.
That goes on sale this Friday, and many of you have been asking questions about it. All the details at our website, pwrshow.com, and you'll be able to purchase, as of Friday, pwrshow.com. Now, that's well before WrestleMania tickets go on sale. WrestleMania tickets go on sale November 5th. WWE travel packages are sold out. We have a hotel option this year as part of Sweet and Sexy, and all the goodies and details available right now, pwrshow.com, and you'll be able to purchase, including the installment plan option, on Friday, pwrshow.com.
I cannot wait.
You ordered the suite. Did you make sure all the appropriate beverages were there waiting for me when I get there? Because I will have beaten Chris Masters by then, so I'll be back on the wagon.
Oh, yeah. I did request some Jameson. Got myself some Jägermeister.
Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Mike in Moreno Valley. Mike, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report. Hello, Mike.
Fellas. Linda Kay, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Good. A little upset about the Bobby Roode thing. I mean, all that build-up for weeks and weeks and weeks just for it to be let down. I really feel like it's WCW all over again.
Those comparisons have been made a lot in the last 24 hours. And one specific comparison that's been made is, what did WCW do? They brought in all these recognizable names. They paid them a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
They did not necessarily make new stars, which is arguable because Goldberg was made in WCW. Ultimately, the company went out of business. If you look at the structure, if you look at what's happening,
it's a little similar.
What's TNA doing that's different from the failed plan in WCW? And, oh, by the way, a lot of their decision makers may have been part of the failure of WCW.
A lot of them. Bischoff, Hogan, and Russo. I don't blame Hogan for the demise of WCW. Not at all. No.
Everybody else blames Kevin Nash.
Yeah, you know what? It was poor management of funds.
It was a comedy of errors that took down WCW. And there's no comedy going on right now in TNA Wrestling.
No, there's not.
Let's go to Will down in Louisiana on line 1. Will, you're live.
Hey, Damien, I got a little bit of a bone to pick with you right now.
Oh, please do. Go right ahead.
Okay, you said Southerners say, why come, right? I'm from Louisiana. I'm about as down south as you can get.
Yeah, you can't get much further south.
I ever say, why come?
My family, several of which were from Kosciuszko, Mississippi. I was taken aback when they would say, why come? And I'm like, why are they saying, why come? It's how come. Kosciuszko, Mississippi is in the South. It happens. It's out there. I'm just saying. I'm sorry. Now, Louisiana is its own gig. Remember, I lived in New Orleans for 2 years, and I'm very, very, very familiar with Louisiana. So, Mr. Will, go right ahead.
All right. I just wanted to go back to what y'all were talking about earlier about the WWE Hall of Fame not being a legitimate Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to kind of agree with that because I'm going to compare the WWE Hall of Fame to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sorry?
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is in the Mrs. hometown?
Yeah, Cleveland, Ohio. How awesome is that? Anyway, I want to make a comparison between those two because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame puts in ABBA before the rock band Kiss. It's like putting in Bob Uecker before they put in Bruno Sammartino.
Right? I can't argue that.
So I just wanted to make that little argument right there as why your argument is valid.
Thank you, Will, very much for that call. And as you hear our voice, C-Pipes in the background, it's time to go to some hot news before we end out the show. And going down the sheet here.
You're waiting until the last possible minute to bring this up, aren't you?
Who wrote, what's this number one on here? I'm not, well, okay, fine. Apparently, due to a misunderstanding, Heath Slater,
misunderstanding, all right,
has been suspended for 30 days by WWE due to an unknown wellness policy violation. Now, I have endorsed Heath Slater. Yeah. I will admit, at this point in time, he has been the least successful of my endorsements.
Are you rescinding your endorsement?
Absolutely not. Once an endorsement's out there, it stays out there. You can't unendorse an endorsed.
Oh, you can.
You got to be fair to Claire. Heath Slater will remain endorsed because I'm not going to pull it back. I'm not going to change my word. Heath Slater is a star one day in the wrestling business. Leave that there. He is suspended. Thus meaning I get a replacement in the draft. I get to replace Mysterio.
You do not.
I get to replace Heath Slater.
You replaced Mysterio with Mark Henry.
No, I didn't.
So Mark Henry's available.
No, he isn't.
Yeah, so you already picked up Mark Henry for Ray Ray.
I got to fly to Vegas for this debate tomorrow night. Will you give us... Stop. Don't get me all worked up.
I'm busy tomorrow.
Good. You were invited.
I got my hot date.
Doing dinner with Wolf Blitzer?
I'm with Salma Hayek. I'll take that any day. You can have Wolfie Blitzer.
Vengeance is this Sunday on pay-per-view. David Hero. Friday online, pwrshow.com. Be the booker for Vengeance. And that should be interesting. A couple of matches we know about already. WWE Champion Alberto Del Rio defending against John Cena. Last man standing matchup. Mark Henry versus The Big Show for the World Heavyweight Championship. Intercontinental Championship may or may not be on the line, but it will be Cody Rhodes defeating Randy Orton for a fourth time come this Sunday night at Vengeance. Sheamus will take on Christian. The Divas Championship on the line. Beth Phoenix and Eve Torres going at it, not Kelly Kelly. And the United States Champion Dolph Ziggler will be defending against you know it, Zack Ryder. Want to invite you to join us on the Primetime Television Show, My 24 Milwaukee, Saturday night, 10 o'clock p.m. We'll be right here back on 540 ESPN next Monday night for David Hero and Linda Kay. Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for your interaction and tuning in to the Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.
540 ESPN.